Hi, I'm Angie with AngieEKnows.com and SurfaceDesignAcademy.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to show you how I paint on interfacing so that I can use it to create silk screens. Now I know this is a different way of creating a silk screen. Most people will use either photo emulsion or create a stencil using stencil plastic. But I like using 3 different types of interfacing to create my silk screens, and I will cover that more in another video. But for this video, I want to show you the painting of the interfacing process. So let's just go ahead and get right to it. Before we get started with painting our interfacing, let's take a look at the materials that you will need. First, you will need some interfacing. I like to use 3 different types of interfacing. You will also need some house paint. This is just regular latex house paint, and it can just be leftover paint, or if you decide to buy something new, buy the cheapest stuff you can get. You will also need something to apply the paint, and I like to use some type of plastic spreader. You will need some plastic to cover your work surface, and it's also a good idea to have something like a wet rag or a few paper towels to keep your hands clean.
So here on the table I have my interfacing that's been cut to size, and as I said earlier, my table is protected with plastic so that I don't mess up my table. Now before I start applying the house paint, I've taken and sprayed the interfacing with some water, and this seems to help relax the fibers and helps the interfacing absorb the paint better. I don't really know if that does that, but it works for me. So I've given my paint a good shake, and let me remove that film. Of course I have on clothes that I don't care if I get paint on, and I find the easiest way to apply the paint is to spread some of it out, to pour it out, and take the spreader and just move it around. It's less cleanup, and I don't have all of that paint in the roller or the brush that I'm washing down the drain. I do have 4 layers of interfacing because you'll find that the paint just basically seeps through that layer, that top layer, down to the bottom. If you only do 1 layer at a time, you end up with a lot of paint on your plastic drop cloth, and that's really just a waste. So this first coat is going to take a lot of paint. Just keep spreading it around, and it seems like I'm using a lot of paint, but a lot of this paint is going down to the layer below, and the subsequent layers don't take as much paint. And if I run out of this color, I'll just go get another color. It's not imperative that everything be the same color, because this is just going to be for the silk screen. It's not going to be for a finished something on my work. So while I'm doing this, while I'm spreading, let me just tell you about the house paint. This is just regular house paint. I buy mine, or actually I get mine, from our county recycling center, which is where people can take paint and other household chemicals. And if the product is still good, they put it in what they call the swap shop, and as long as you're a county resident, you can go in and get it for free. So I very seldom pay for paint unless I'm going for a very specific color for something. But if I were to be paying for paint, I would get the cheapest house paint that I could get. Doesn't matter what sheen it is, it really doesn't matter the quality. The purpose of painting the interfacing is to seal it, and it doesn't matter. You can seal it whether it's a high quality paint or a cheaper paint, so don't go and spend a lot of money on paint. I try to make sure that there are no heavy spots and no little drips and what have you. And I don't worry about the wrinkles in the interfacing like these. It's impossible to get the interfacing without wrinkles, and before I make my silk screen, I take and try to press those out as best I can. Now that I have the first layer on the top piece, I'm ready to take this and I hang it up to dry. Don't leave it down flat to dry, especially don't leave them stacked on each other to dry because they will glue themselves together. So I'll hang this up, and if you hang it up outside, make sure to weight down the bottom so that the interfacing doesn't fold and blow and stick to itself, because if it dries that way, it's not coming apart. So let me take and hang this up and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back now and ready to continue on with the next layer of interfacing. And you can see how much paint has seeped through from that first layer. So I'll just add some more paint. And I already know that I'm not going to have enough of this turquoise to do all 4 of these. So my last layer may be a different color. You can see this second layer is not taking as much paint, or it's not needing as much paint. Now the interfacing that I'm using does have fusible on one side, but it doesn't matter. I apply the paint to whatever side, it doesn't matter. Because we actually end up applying 2 coats of paint, and even though it has fusible on it, the paint actually interferes with the ability of the fusible to work, so we just ignore the fusible. Okay, I'm back now, and I've added a little bit of water to this beige paint to thin it out a bit. It was a little thick, and it should be enough to get me this first layer on each of these pieces, but I'm not going to have enough to do a second layer. And I just checked my stock of this paint from the recycle center, and I don't have any more. So I will either have to go get some more or use some other paint that I have. It does require 2 good coats of paint to totally seal this, and if you don't seal it when you're using your silk screen made out of the interfacing, you will get some paint seepage. And if that's what you want, it can be kind of nice because it gives your printed image kind of a grunge look, but just be sure if that's what you want. So I will finish this piece off, get some more paint in the next day or so, add a second layer to each of the pieces, and come back and show you what they look like. I'm just going to clean it up with a damp rag.